time and time again? Well, in tonight's cover story, Donna Hanover finds out as she goes beyond the comic pages to meet some of the characters who keep us all chuckling.
Leroy and Loretta Lockhorn have been fighting for 22 years, but they are created in surprisingly peaceful surroundings in Huntington, Long Island. Bunny Hoest gets her ideas for the cartoons sitting by the Long Island Sound. She writes them on 3x5 cards called gag slips.
How do you get these ideas?
From you and everybody who watches you. People are incredibly funny. I have to thank the entire human race for giving me these lines.
The characters were originally created and drawn by Bunny's husband, Bill, until he died 2 years ago. Now her partner at the drawing board is a young artist Bill worked with in his last years, John Reiner.
It was very difficult at first because I wanted not only to do a good job, but I also wanted to do justice to the work that he had done, because that was a very high standard. I love working for Bunny. That's great. I come from a generation of television watchers. She comes from a generation of people who read, you know, and listen to the radio, use their imagination. So I think that's what makes the cartoons work so well.
I think that her expression can be a little more...
Not as matter of fact?
Not as matter of fact. I think she should be positively thrilled with herself.
This little two-man studio has generated an amazing amount of humor over the last decade. Bill and Bunny also created Agatha Crumb, What a Guy, Bumper Snickers, Laugh Parade, and Howard Huge. The Howard Huge cartoons are published in Parade magazine, which goes to 80 million people each Sunday, and the studio is chock full of Howard Huges. He's actually based on a real St. Bernard that the family had for 13 years. The Lockhorns are in 500 newspapers around the world, reaching 100 million people. Why are Loretta and Leroy so nasty to each other?
This was really our plea for couples to be kind to one another, and we thought by this gross exaggeration, this hyperbole, we could show how ridiculous you look when you actually do nasty things to one another and not treat each other decently.
The Lockhorns have actually changed a little recently. In honor of equality for women, Loretta is getting in her share of digs. And occasionally there is a cartoon where they are actually nice to each other. There are also in-jokes. Host friend Don Pullman has been married 3 times, so he gets listed as marriage counselor. And shopkeepers in Huntington find their stores popping up in the Lockhorns neighborhood. A lot of hard work goes into that moment of laughter when we get to read a comic.
I think humor is the only way to get through the bad times of our lives. We want people to relax, to take the stress out of their lives, to have some fun.
Uh-oh, Leroy's in trouble for paying too much attention to those girls on TV again. I'm Donna Hanover for Channel 11 News at 10.
Everyone has their own ideas of how well their marriage will actually go before they step into it. But have you noticed life seldom lives up to fantasy? And Ted Brown tells us sometimes fantasy isn't all roses either.
Every day, 100 million newspaper readers are witnesses to a marriage on the rocks. Leroy is caught flirting again. Loretta has ruined another meal. Or they're both taking another futile trip to a marriage counselor. But just when it seems that nothing will save the Lockhorns' marriage, Bunny Hoest comes to the rescue.
The Lockhorns are never going to get divorced. Let me say this very finally. They adore one another. They love one another. The problem is they just don't know how to express it like so many people.
Skeptics will just have to take her word for it, because Bunny Hoest is the Lockhorns. Her late husband Bill Hoest created the couple in 1973, but since his death in '88, Bunny has been writing and editing all the Hoest family cartoons, including Parade magazine's weekly Laugh Parade, starring a canine pituitary case called Howard Huge.
Howard Huge was my real dog. He was a St. Bernard that lived with us for almost 12 years. And we adored him. And when he died, we thought that the world, you know, my children were in hysterics and we were not much better. And Bill started fooling around with drawings and saying, you know, he's a pretty funny dog. And we kept on looking at him saying, this isn't funny. You know, we were really in tears and sobbing a lot. And after time is pretty good for us. And after a year or so, we started to say, you know, he really was funny. And these drawings are pretty hilarious.
Hoest says the gag ideas come through careful people watching and letters from fans. Unlike strips like Kathy or For Better or For Worse, she says the Lockhorns has never been autobiographical.
We're showing the absurdity of such behavior and how ridiculous you look when you're not kind to your spouse, your best friend. And certainly Bill and I didn't have that kind of a marriage at all. That was not modeled on us. Or maybe the cooking. I'm a terrible cook.
Ted Brown, Channel 4 Eyewitness News.
Bunny Hoest, who is the creator of the popular comic strip The Lockhorns, voted #1 by readers of the Naples Daily News and of the News Press. A great success comic. How did you come up with this?
We're so lucky. My husband and I came up with this years ago, over 20 years ago, and they've been married unhappily, but sticking together, staying together, working on their marriage, trying very hard. They go to the marriage counselor frequently, as readers know, and they're trying so hard to communicate, and they're going to be married forever. And we came up with it, frankly, by watching people around us. We did not have that kind of a marriage, Monica.
That's what I was going to wonder. How much of it?
We were not at all down on one another. We were good friends. And in fact, if there is a message, we're trying to say that people should be kind to one another. We're trying to show that demeaning one another and being nasty is ridiculous. You know, the Lockhorns look silly doing that. It's a negative role model. It's satire.
But
we had a good marriage.
Sometimes the things that you see in there are just so funny, I mean, and very realistic, or things like just the one that was in the paper today regarding Leroy's out in the fishing boat and takes her along, and she says, you know, something to the effect, next time maybe I won't go along with you. I mean, how typical.
Well, it's not as much fun as it used to be, is what she was saying. Being cold and wet and rainy isn't as much fun as it used to be. The fact is, we are very trained observers, and we see what people are doing, and then we move it to the extreme, gross exaggeration and hyperbole, and that's what stretches it to the funny part. And the people can see themselves in an extreme situation and laugh at it, and it takes the stress out of their lives and out of their marriage. Any couple living together has stress, you know, just the idea of getting along with another person under one roof. And they see the stress situation pulled to the most ridiculous scenario possible, and then they can laugh, and it takes the tension out, and I think we're kind of helping in some way.
Is this something that when you sit down and write and come up with these ideas, is this something that maybe you'll just be sitting in an airport and hear something and write it down, or do you actually sit time at a desk? And
I spend a lot of time at a desk. I get up at 5 or 6 in the morning and spend a good 3 or 4 hours till 9 o'clock when the phones start to ring, and so I do have a lot of concentrated time, but that's for the perfection of it. The Lockhorns is one panel, and the caption has to be short and snappy. It's hard to say everything in one bottom line. And so I do a lot of that refining, but I do take notes in airports and restaurants, people in the act of being themselves, and they provide me with all the entertainment necessary.
And you say a lot of people write in, and we had a viewer who called in who said his wife is named Loretta, and he had sent some stuff and had some correspondence with your husband.
Well, we answer all fan mail, of course, but people do write in. I accept ideas to keep it fresh and funny. People send ideas from friends, fans, family, writers, amateur, professional. I take ideas from any place that comes in and use them and rework them. You know, you have to make it appropriate for your panel.
And quickly, we want to tell all the viewers about now the first time a calendar. How nice of a...
This is the first product. We're so excited. We have a Lockhorns calendar for 1991, and I'm absolutely thrilled. It's the first time we've ever come out with anything really commercial. And I'm hoping it's the beginning of other things, because I think the Lockhorns are a wonderful support system for everybody in the world, anybody living with somebody. And I'd love to see more. We're having a play that's been optioned to be produced on Broadway. Somebody's trying to do a TV sitcom, which is really very exciting.
Yes,
and so I'm hoping this all works out.
Well, we look forward to many, many more years of the Lockhorns. And we appreciate you being with us.
Thank you, Monica.
Great. Thank you very much.
I work all the time. I'm a compulsive worker, workaholic. What happens is my studio is in my home. It's 3 steps from my bedroom. And I work from 5 in the morning till about 9, seriously, doing just writing, collating gags, trimming them up, editing them, making them crisp. You know, I specialize in very crisp, clean line drawings and very crisp, clean line style of writing. And that's the Hoest studio style. And so I work very hard from about 5 to 9 before anybody gets to the studio, before anything happens. Phones don't ring, lawyers don't call, you know, the King Features doesn't come up, the calendar people are not on the phone. And so that is my best work time. And then from 9 o'clock, I do the real work. I do all of the conference with the artist who's taken over my husband's drawings.
Have you ever tried to do the artwork yourself?
No, I've never tried. I've done layout. I've done designed it like a set, you know, say Mrs. Lockhorn enters stage left, there's a dining room table, she stumbled, you know, that kind of thing. But I've never drawn. I'm just not talented that way. I'm really just an old English teacher who got into this kind of sideline because I married my husband and he needed somebody to help edit and to put together a book. We have, you know, many books out. And he needed somebody to assist with the words, which was, of course, right down my alley as an ex-English teacher.
Where do you get the inspiration, though? I mean, you talk to let's say, a comedian, and he says, oh, you know, the hardest part is trying to be funny all the time.
Yeah.
How do you come up day after day after day coming up with a
Well, the thing is, I'm based on reality. You know, I just have to observe. I just heard some funny news on your program here, and that was hilarious. Those ideas are just all around you. If you just listen and keep your eyes open, couples do funny things that the Lockhorns is based on, and then we just do gross exaggeration. We stretch the situation like a caricaturist to an extreme until you see what would happen if we went further with this and further. And finally, it's hilarious.
I've always been the kind of person, and my journalism professors wouldn't necessarily be excited about this, but I've always been the kind of person who goes to the comics first thing and then goes back to the front page and goes to the newspaper. Have you been like that yourself?
Well, I've always been like that. I've used comics to teach English, actually. I think it's a wonderful source, a wonderful start for people to realize that there's a meaning, there's an essence. Communication is what we're talking about. And I think most people don't admit it, but I think the comics are the first thing they read for a good reason. The comics give you the social commentary and the social criticism as concisely as you're ever going to get it in the paper. It's like a headline, except you're having it illustrated, and so it's graphic and wonderful.
Someone's in the kitchen, and it's Bunny Hoest, the wife of cartoonist Bill Hoest. You may know Bill's work, The Lockhorns, where Loretta and Leroy battle out every day over cooking, and I'm here to prove that art doesn't imitate life.
Well, I'll try. This is my favorite recipe. It's called sweet and pungent meatballs. It's been handed down in my family by the survivors, as my husband says. The first thing we do is take a can of tomato soup. I use Campbell's. I guess it's the best. We take that and we pour it or scrape it and put it right into this big pot. And then we take a can of white rose cranberry sauce and we pour that or scrape that into the pot. Oops. And then we kind of mix them together. And
how many cans would you use?
Well, it depends on how many people drop in for dinner. If we have, you know, some of the children and grandchildren come, then we add more cans. And I always keep meatballs in a tray in the freezer, like ice cubes, so I can just keep pulling them out and adding to it, and then there's more for more people, which, of course, is very nice. Now, the next thing we do is add the meatballs.
Now, what are they seasoned with?
Well, the meatballs are just pure lean meat, chopped meat, and then I add this Lowry's seasoned salt-free, which is salt-free from Grandma. Sprinkle it all over the top, and then throw the meatball. Oh, whoops. Oh, my goodness. Is that okay? I just dropped a meatball. Well, now, okay, we won't use that one now. And here are the rest of the meatballs.
Okay, oh, beautiful.
There you go. And then you kind of separate them. And it really, it's very tasty, and it's very healthy.
Well,
it's very nourishing.
Let's go to the stove and
let's go to the stove. Right, good idea. We'll go to the stove.